something told him to look out the window. And then so he stood up and looked out the window, and he seen a young man aiming a pistol towards the direction of the apartments. And then he heard like 5 or 6 shots, and then the window shattered. And, you know, they put everybody on the floor, you know, they escaped to the bathroom.
So what's your name?
My name is Thrett Brown.
Okay. And where are you from?
Originally from Pleasant Hill, Louisiana. Population 2019 is probably 720 people, to be exact.
Who would you say you were before your experience?
Before my experience, I would say that I was a compromiser. I was a person that would compromise my own values and things of that nature to suit the circle of people that I was surrounding myself with. So, yeah, compromiser.
How did you become involved in the justice system?
I would say that I got involved with the justice system by watching just the lifestyle of the things that was around me. I started noticing how people around me was responding to a lot of things, and I had got information from my mother that an uncle of mine was doing 27 years as a active Black Panther at the time in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I went and visited him once at Angola, and that caught my attention at 5 years old.
Overall, how long was your experience in the system?
My experience inside of the system was about 4 years here in the state of Washington. My first time in, I was disappointed because I wasn't in prison, I was in a work camp. And so when I realized that I was in a work camp and it wasn't the actual environment to go into to say that you've been to prison, I got a little disruptive and started, you know, vandalizing and tearing up things, demonstrating group movements, and so they started shipping me to different institutions, and so that's what I mean by shipped around.
So they were like trying to pardon me for putting it this way, they may have seen you as a problem and they were trying to pawn you off to everyone?
Yeah, and then trying to teach me a lesson at the same time too.
Okay.
Because the information I got was like, you never been to prison. I was 20 years old, you know, so you've never been to prison, so yes, what you need to. And I was like, well, if this ain't prison, let's get it there, you know what I'm saying? And so I took it that far.
Yeah. While you were in the system, what did you miss most?
While I was in the system, what did I miss most? What I missed most was the acknowledgement of who I was, you know. And what I mean by that is that once I found out the type of person that I really was and who I truly was and what I was capable of doing, I missed the fact that if I was freed at that particular time, I could do so much. So I missed the person that I knew I was the most.
Would you do it again?
What I know now, no. I would not do it again. However, if I was the same person, if I could go back and I still remain the same person that I was, then I wouldn't be opposed to it, you know. But if I can go back and apply what I know now, then no, you know. Okay. So I wouldn't. No, I'll pass.
All right.
I'll pass.
All right. How did you feel on the day of your release?
How did I feel on the day of my release? I felt nervous. I felt a little claustrophobic, you know, for lack of better words. And anxiety set in. I didn't feel like I was ready to be released. I feel like I needed more time.
Getting out, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. You were getting out of prison, you were getting freedom, and you felt claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I started to realize that I had a lot to do. You know, there's a lot of stuff, responsibilities and priorities are starting to set in. And, you know, coming from the institution, everything's pretty structured for you, you know, and so for you to have to get out and start to do the things that you're supposed to do that's required, like survive and live, you know, that was very, very stressful, man. And then I just had a visual on how I seen things prior to me getting out that wasn't positive at all. It was extremely negative. And I felt like that by me getting out right now, I didn't correct that negativity, and I was going to get out and respond and act accordingly.
What did you look forward to when you got released?
What I really looked forward to, just the simple things, man. Waving at people, watching people walk by, seeing a car drive by, a nice glass of ice water, you know. I literally want to just see how the beads of the water just roll down, and I can just reach over and pick up my glass and take a sip with no ice. I don't want no ice. I just want ice water in a clear glass.
Okay.
That's what I wanted.
What were your biggest worries or concerns about re-entry?
One of the biggest things that I had a problem, I didn't feel like I was going to be as accepted as I hoped to have been accepted by even my own family, and then they embraced me, true indeed, you know, and they accepted me to the max. But it was just my perception of not being accepted and me being gone so long away from people that I care about. And then I felt like a lot of resentment from, you know, certain people in my family, because a lot of things happen to certain people in my family. And had I been there, a lot of those things wouldn't have happened. And so I felt the guilt of my absence.
Okay.
And I was hard to face, you know, certain people.
What way do you have to take care of yourself when you're released that you didn't while you were in the system?
Legally.
Okay.
You know, I'm gonna say legally. I
Right.
take care of myself legally
Okay.
because while I was in,
Mhm.
I had to do it legally. And then, but when I was out prior to being incarcerated, everything was illegal. You know, everything.
Okay. Okay. What tools, networking, or what have you that have helped you deal with the challenges of reentry?
My wits. I gained a lot of brain knowledge when I was incarcerated.
Okay.
I got a lot of powerful information from brothers that would never see the day of light again. And they instilled into me a lot of influence, you know, stuff that I should be focused on, what is primary and what is secondary, and focus on my primary. So those are some of the tools that I was released with.
Once you were released, what were the most critical supports that you needed?
The critical supports that I needed, I just needed the right company of people. I needed the right understanding, really, is what I would narrow it down to. I just needed the people to understand, but then the complex that come from that is that how do I expect certain people to understand if they haven't experienced, you know, this whole situation that I'm coming from.
And what are the biggest gaps in your access to assistance for you and maybe others?
Everything. Keep it 100, man. Everything.
What do you mean? What? Give me an example.
So first of all, we got to understand, you know, how to even function before we can even start asking for support. Or that's the biggest gap.
Right.
How do I engage? You know what I'm saying? I don't even know how to approach people at this particular time. I'm edgy about everything. I'm skeptical about everything, which makes people that's watching me skeptical and edgy about me.
Right.
So that creates this enormous gap of how do we build the bridge to make sure that I can get what I want and people can really contribute, because a lot of people do want to contribute. But that my personality, or a lot of people that are released, their mindset, their mentalities is one thing. But again, that's a creative situation too, to make you distance from people. So I would say a gap in just opportunities, being able to move. Sometimes you can't get out and believe that the solutions that you need is in your community. Sometimes it's in a community over. But your limitations to probation or parole or whatever that looks like, it prevents you from going out to get the best resources or going out to get the best support without breaking or violating your probation or
Okay,
something.
well, in what way has numbers to names helped you since you've been released? Excuse me.
Being at Numbers and Names just started with us we just created this opportunity about this close to a year and a half ago. What I would say that it's done for me, since I've been out since 2005, right? But what Numbers and Name has done for me in this last year and a half was give me the best opportunity I've ever asked for, was the ability to go back inside and speak to brothers that's still incarcerated.
Do you believe that sharing stories has a transformative impact? If so, why and how?
Yes, sharing stories have a transformative impact. Very, very, very much. You know what I'm saying? It has a very impact on people. As long as your story is transformative, as long as your story has substance and solution, it's not like you can get out and tell a story and it's like, well, you're just telling the same story from what you was when you was like 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like anything's changed, so why should a person listen to you, experienced or not? But if you've been in a certain situation, if you come from poverty, if you come from broken families, if you come from an industrial complex, if you've been dealing with prison and you figured out a way to find a way out, and you share that story of detaching yourself away from those norms, that's where the power is at, I believe. But I can't preach about doing better for yourself if I'm not doing better. Then I'm just a hypocrite. So it's a difference between storytelling and being a hypocrite is just talking. I live by what I talk about change, and I encourage that to others because I became my own change. So I would say that my experiences has made me a more powerful person due to the experience. And it's made me a more powerful person because I act on the power that I do have. I act on my knowledge of myself. I act on my potentials. I act on my abilities to make change. I know that it takes me as an individual if I want to see something done collectively.
What building are we in right now?
This building actually?
Yeah.
We're in building 12 at TCC.
And what are you doing at what is TCC?
Oh, TCC is the hub, man. TCC is where it's at. Go Titans. TCC is the Community College International. This is the place for me to go and get my education on. I'm a student.
TCC stand for?
Tacoma Community College.
Okay.
International.
What you learning?
Business and communication.
Oh man.
I'm right now in the process of learning how to operate a business, expand a business, and start a company at the same time.
Sounds like you already did that though.
Yeah, I've done that, but now I got the credentials to back it. Now to come in, you know, like I say, it's good to have this information, but if you ain't got the credentials to back it, then you are limited still. So by doing this schooling part, you know, it plays a key role in my life. The most important part that keeps me going is that I know that had I had somebody in the past that would have took the time to interfere and disrupt my patterns and the directions that I was headed, I would have went a different direction. And when I see the majority of our young people, especially when we start doing statistics on the incarceration rate and how many people's being incarcerated and what people is being targeted, our young men in general, but specifically our young men of color, people are too intimidated to approach them and correct them. So me waking up every day to make sure that I can stay alive to instill the right message into the right young person, that's one thing that's the primary that motivates me to the max.
All right.
Yeah.
Good on you, man. What words of advice do you have for others in a similar situation?
Education prevents incarceration.
You're gonna have to say that a little bit slower. What was it again?
Education prevents incarceration.
Oh, all right. See, I missed that middle word.
Yeah. Had I gone to school and finished school, growing up, I would have been occupied. My time would have been controlled. A school would have been a primary. Streets wouldn't have been a factor in my life, you know.
Right.
I would have been doing the things that I knew I should have been doing to get me to those next levels. And the thing that I believe now, other words of encouragement and words of advice, I got this new concept and we're gonna coin it here. It's called a pentality, you know. And for brothers to socialize and group together with each other and to do this pentality perspective, and what a pentality is that if any young man out here in the streets had the mindset of a person that's incarcerated right now, they'll be untouchable. A prison mindset is one of the most sharpest things on the face of the planet that I've learned through experience personally, but I've also observed in me watching people live their own experiences. It makes you sharper, it makes you smarter, you become way more intelligent, you think about your physical capabilities.
What gives you those attributes?
Prison, being incarcerated for that time frame. Being able to sit down and analyze things. So if we can create that environment out here while being free, that's a pentality. I don't want to have to go to prison to be restructured or be disciplined.
Shouldn't have to go to prison to take a minute. Right?
You said it. Should not have to go to prison to take a minute. Pentality, let's get it.